I was doing some planning. Yeah, me, plan. I know, I don't know myself anymore. For a watermill design with a big, beautiful wheel. And then I saw this cliff. And you know me, I love a cliffside house. And then I got thinking, why not bring them together as a cliffside watermill? So that's what we're doing today. Let's go. And if you're really good and watch all the way to the end, I'm going to give this to you as a free world download in both Bedrock Edition and Java Edition. This seed is awesome, and I'll show you how to get that download a little bit later on in the video. Now, I do need to think about this a little bit. A watermill in a cliff is going to need to have a river coming from the top and a waterfall coming down to power the wheel. That's going to need to go somewhere, and I think this little outlet here could be perfect. Which means our water wheel is going to have to be in line with that. Now, fortunately, we've got a little bit of an open cliff face here, but the water wheel itself is going to have to be dug into the cliff. And that's going to be quite interesting when it comes to build the wheel itself, but that's all right. I think I need to just dig a little bit out of this cliff first. The wheel I've got in my mind has got a diameter of 15 blocks, which means halfway along, we're only talking about 8 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. It doesn't go into the cliff face very much. I'd actually like it to do it more than that. So I'm going to have to push this little inlet forwards, probably 6 or 7 blocks. And I also need to make sure that it's at least 5 blocks wide without it looking too ugly. I'm kind of digging this out now, giving it some depth, but I need to make sure that I landscape this up later on once we've got some structure in. I'm going to use some cyan wool just to plan this out. I think I want the outer edge of my wheel to be, well, 1, 2, 3, probably about there, I think. So that means that we're going in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which means we need to go in another 8. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's how deep we're going to have to go. It's not too bad, it's just a little bit in. And of course, the up-down diameter is also 15. So if we assume the bottom of the wheel is going to be just in the water, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's the height, although that will be further in. So now I know that I can dig this cliffside out just wide enough to be able to fit the wheel plus a little bit. And so I started the job of digging out a big chunk of the cliff for the water wheel. I've taken 3 blocks on each side of the centre to give room for decoration and building, although I'll not be putting the details right inside because that just seems like a bit of a waste. I'll most likely have to do some serious landscaping to improve the look of this before we're finished. I think that's going to be a lot better, and I'm going to use stripped oak wood for this because it's going to be in a medieval style, so I'll just replace this all out. That looks fab, I'm happy with that, but we do now need to make the circle, so I'm going to pop that out, I'm going to put that in, I'm going to come up 2 in 1, up 2 in 1, up and across, then up again, across 2, up and across 2. So there we've got the first quadrant of a circle. I'll put all 4 of those in. And now we've got that whole circle in, we can make it 3 wide by adding a block on either side of it. And that now starts to really allow us to see the structure, but it's got no support. This thing's going to fall over completely. So we need to put in some support. So I'm going to use fence posts here and put a ring of fence posts all the way around the inside like this first. And then we'll add some more stuff to it in just a moment. Now that already looks and feels a bit stronger to me, but we need to do a little bit more to it, I think. Medieval builds often incorporate cobblestone into their wood, so let's give them extra support using some stone. I'm going to put a cobblestone block right there inside that fence, which means it's come out 1, 2, 3, 4, including the middle. That makes it 5, which means it's going to be a 9 diameter circle. If I do that on all of these sides, and I'm going to build up a circle of 9 diameter on this side and also another one on this side too, because it needs to be symmetrical. And a 9 diameter circle is pretty simple. All I'm going to do here is I'm going to place, once I've got that block on, 1, 2 blocks there, in 1, out 1, in 1, out 1, and then join it up. So it's pretty simple. It's almost a square really. And what's really nice is it doesn't obscure these fences, which give that extra decent detail. I am, however, going to change it up a little bit. Where we've got solid blocks here on the corners, I'm going to change those for steps because I want it to look just a little bit more delicate. Is not quite the right word, but I certainly want to make sure that it doesn't look quite so blocky. That looks loads better. I can almost see the completed wheel in my mind. And just to finish off this shape, I'm going to bring some actual wood into it. We're going to trim the wood up all the way around here like this. So the original 15 wide is inside. You can see I've got an indent, is inside this wood like this. So I'm going to come up and around and around. Basically, if I've got a piece of wood, I'm going to come on the outside of it. This is going to mean that these logs are going to look a little bit kind of the grain going in the wrong way. We may or may not do something with that in a moment, but ultimately I think this is going to give a little bit more depth to the entire wheel. Yeah, that works perfectly. What I'm now going to do is add in again a little bit more spruce just to smooth off these corners, and hopefully it'll look like a proper wheel. That works well. These bits are quite long and flat, but I can change that up with a bit of decoration. Now, I was going to place these in there as well to try and smooth that curve, but I decided I wanted to make it ever so slightly more ornate. So I'm putting in some fence posts into all of these corners like this. And under the fence posts, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place some trapdoors from the outside, so you can see the grain of these spruce trapdoors is along the bottom. Hello, Mr. Donkey, you're around there somewhere. I'm going to do this all the way around the inside of this wheel on both sides. And all I need to do now is just add some additional detail. I put trapdoors around that stone just to break that up. I'm going to place here, coming from each angle, a grindstone just to add that effect. You can see that now looks as if it's kind of a way of holding that wheel on, and I'm going to pop just to add a little bit more of that on this spindle as well. You need to make sure that those buttons are facing all the right way. That's perfect. And I'm going to place one at the end. That's good. I'm going to do that on the other side as well. We're going to get another propeller effort going like that. One there, one underneath, and one to the side. We're also going to get some more buttons there, 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 and there. And then we're going to add more buttons around the edge, more trapdoors. I'm also going to use some oak trapdoors just to change it up a little bit. One there on the corners, exactly like that. And once we're done with that, we can start to build the house itself. And then we're just going to finish off with the actual blades of the wheel itself. I'm going to use some upside down spruce steps. If you can imagine, that's the bucket of the water flowing across. One there, and one there. I'm then going to pop one underneath there like that, and I'm going to come underneath and place it upside down that way as well. And I'm going to follow that all the way around the wheel on three sides. I'm not going to bother with the back. And the most complex part of the build is already finished. The water wheel is perfectly sat into that cliff face. I'm going to put a bit of light behind there, I think, just to stop any mobs from spawning. We just need to build out the house on the side, and that bit's easy, right? And obviously the water's got to come down onto the wheel, otherwise it's a little bit pointless. That means I've got to build a river in there. I'm going to bring this spindle out just a couple more blocks because we want a circle that's going to drive the actual milling, and that needs to be a flat circle against the ground. We're going to need to put in, if I pop that, I'm going to need to put in some kind of crank, which is going to be these stairs upside down and around the other way, actually, because that's not going to work. And then I can place an opposite way crank to the circle like that. If that goes there, that should go, I think, there. Yep, so that's now a crank that will turn a wheel that is this direction all the way around. So let's get that wheel in, which means digging out a little bit more dirt and rock. Hopefully you can kind of see that better now. I've used smooth stone slabs here because you can actually see the differentiation between the top and the bottom of the slab, and it works really well as two grinding stones. This here turning the top grinding stone and the bottom grinding stone being on its own, supported by that strut, and that's being the pivot. Now let's build the house around it. And I'm going to use stripped birch for the main structure because it differentiates from the crank, and I want to come right to the edge here, and I'm going to build out a box using stripped birch. We are going to decorate it up, otherwise it's going to look proper rubbish. Don't worry about that. We need to have plenty of clearance from that stone slab. So if I come across there, that should be enough. Right, let me build this box up. So we've got the bottom half of this building now. Inside I've put a stone brick floor in there because I thought that'd be quite important to do that. I'm going to take out that. I'm going to replace that with stone brick, and I'm going to come and get a door from the inside. I'm going to place it there so they can come in and out. What we're going to need to do is kind of decorate this up a little bit in a moment, but I also need to make sure, one, that we don't encroach upon our wheel because it is quite close, but two, we've got a height of at least part way above the wheel so as it doesn't look out of balance. I'm also going to need to draw in something on this side because that's just not going to support. So if I come along there. I'm going to need some stony kind of support outcrop there to make sure that that wheel doesn't go flying into the lake and doesn't end up being able to mill any grain. That would be bad. So we'll start with this doorway first. I'm just going to put a really simple topper onto that. I think what I might do is just put a trapdoor on the top of that just to give it its increased space. I'm going to place a fence there and a fence there, and I reckon what we can do there is put in 2 blocks just to give a bit of a doorway for this guy. And I'm also going to put in some kind of window just on the side. We'll decorate that in a moment. I am going to trim around this edge all the way along using some trapdoors just to break up this bottom level with the top level that I'm going to put on in just a moment. I changed my mind up a little bit. I brought this wall in just one spot so as we've got an extra edge that I could trim up with a little bit of cobble there, and then we've got these outset wooden posts that are going to form the structure of part of this. And now I'm going to put the second floor on. And that sounds like it could be a time lapse. Sit back, relax, enjoy the music whilst I finish this fella off. And with that, we are finished. The wheel's got water pouring over it. The house is complete. It's completely furnished inside, and the waterfall comes up from this water source right at the top. The wheel is never coming off. It's held properly firm by this piece of structure right here. And as I say, this water flowing over that wheel, pushing it around so the wheel inside is going to grind up all of that grain. With the way I furnished it inside, you could totally adapt it, make it your own, but there's plenty of furnishings upstairs for you to make a base out of it. And with the resources nearby, this seed is brilliant, so I really hope you choose to download the world. And if you do, you can find the world download at avomance.com. That's avomance.com. Go to the free downloads tab and it will be right there with a unique link waiting for you. And whether you download it, make it for yourself, or just enjoyed watching it, I'll look forward to seeing you in another video. You take it easy now. Bye.